Hello everyone, and welcome to the 10th episode of Thoughts on the Couch. I'm Tim.
I'm Tarun.
And I'm Krishna.
In this week's video, we'll be discussing the coordinated harassment directed at the creators of the game Ooblets after they announced a deal to publish their game on the Epic Games Store, and rounding out the latest lootbox related news from the past week.
We'll also be discussing publisher Take-Two's crackdown on a YouTuber who allegedly leaked material related to Borderlands 3, and of course the latest announcements related to Disney's upcoming streaming service, Disney+. Let's get started.
In the latest instance of rage against the Epic Games Store, Ben Wasser and Rebecca Cordingley, the creators of the upcoming game Ooblets, have spoken out about the extremely negative reaction to the news that they will be taking a deal offered by Epic, the developers behind the hit video game Fortnite and the proprietors of the Epic Games Store. After announcing that they had signed a deal with Epic, where Ooblets would receive an exclusive release on the Epic Games Store in return for further funding and a minimum guarantee on sales, the two were met with an extremely negative reaction online.
According to Wasser and Cordingley, who authored a post on the official Ooblets website, they received thousands, if not tens of thousands of hateful, threatening messages across every possible platform non-stop since the announcement. A far cry from the usually positive, supportive relationship they had with the community. Wasser even stated that some online had sought to defame him by faking a screenshot that featured a statement, supposedly from Wasser, claiming that gamers would be better off in gas chambers, and that these people had later gone one step further by attempting to doctor a fake video in which Wasser was shown posting the fake statement.
Of course, anger at Epic exclusivity announcements is nothing new. Earlier this year, Gearbox Software, the studio behind Borderlands 3, also became the target of online abuse after it was revealed that the latest entry in the hit franchise would be releasing on the Epic Games Store rather than on Steam. Other games, including Metro Exodus and The Outer Worlds, were also hit with similar reactions.
Epic have since put out a statement pledging to steadfastly support its partners through these challenges and describing the negative reactions to exclusivity announcements as a disturbing trend that was undermining healthy public discourse. Wasser had in fact attempted to get ahead of the expected reaction by trying to put things in perspective when announcing that he had struck a deal with Epic, describing the deal as low-stakes video game stuff and nothing to get worked up about. Naturally, this seems to have had the opposite effect, and some of the negative reaction online stems from community members who found the tone of Wasser's post to be snarky and or disrespectful. So, what do we think?
I think it's a bit of an overreaction.
Yeah, that's kind of my take on it as well, to be honest.
Yeah, same.
What's the hate behind Epic? I mean, I guess, it's a new platform and it's not Steam, but I don't understand what it does that angers people so much when developers decide to go to Epic Games.
Honestly, for some people, I think the fact that it's not Steam is actually just enough. Because, obviously, Steam's sort of like the leader in this sort of market. It's been on there quite a long time. You have, I guess you call it brand loyalty. And obviously, I think that's something that's, become very toxic, I guess, in this case.
I imagine it has less features too than Steam.
Yeah.
From what I've heard, they were approached with the deal from Epic to feature their indie game on their store. And this is, I think a lot of people know from the developer side, this is a great deal compared to what you would get on Steam.
Yeah, obviously, we do need to mention that when it comes to, publishing your game on Steam, for example, basically what happens is that developer retains 70% of the profits and then Steam takes the other 30%. What's different about the Epic Games Store is that proportion is sort of more in favor of the developer of games. So they have an 88-12 split, which a lot of developers have sort of come out and said, this deal that Epic is offering us is actually better than what we would get with Steam. And obviously this Ooblets is just one of the sort of examples of indie games sort of, getting a better deal by going on this store. Like you mentioned, we don't really know what it is about Epic that people really hate. I think there's quite a lot of factors behind that. From what I've been reading online, there is, I suppose what you say, a sort of racist element to this whole Epic hate. So basically what happens is Epic, one of the major shareholders in Epic is actually the Chinese corporation Tencent. A lot of people do not like that Tencent is sort of supporting Epic in this way. And they think because it's sort of like a Chinese corporation, it's not sort of bound by the same laws as an American corporation when it comes to, keeping your data safe. So Epic has sort of said that, Tencent doesn't have anything to do with us apart from funding us. And they don't have any say, how we run day to day. So, I think that's a common misconception.
Yeah, I think it's an image problem. There's the fact that Epic is a relatively new studio. They're disrupting the gaming landscape a bit. Owned by Tencent, Chinese company, right?
Right, yeah.
It's the feeling is there's an us and them feeling there.
Chinese corporations do not generally have the best, sort of reputation when it comes to safety. And, when it comes to keeping your data safe, perhaps they're possibly less trustworthy, if that makes sense.
And I've heard Chinese companies in general have little less respect for intellectual property.
Yeah, so I think, that's part of the reason why they're angry at Epic. Also, the Epic Game Store as a sort of like a launcher platform, as the application you get on your computer. It's got less features than Steam, and I think some people are just angry about that as well. Because I know they're just recently introducing cloud saves for some games. Steam has had that for ages.
It still doesn't warrant any of the death threats they've been sending at them.
Oh yeah, of course not, definitely not. This is bad to the extent the creators literally said, I have been crying nonstop for the last 2 days and it felt like the world has collapsed around me. That's like some serious harassment. And I know, I think whatever you feel about Epic, that is just plain not okay.
Are these threats simply coming from online, or are they getting hate mail or something?
I think most of it is online.
See, normally I would say that, hey, toughen up, this is the business you're in. But yeah.
They're indie devs, Krishna. This is not a very common controversies around indies.
I'm on their side though.
Yeah, I think we all are. I think we do have to acknowledge that, all three of us, we are mainly console gamers. We don't game that much on PC. And this is sort of like an issue that's very much confined to the sort of PC arena, if you like. I think a lot of people sort of don't like the idea that Epic is trying to gather exclusive games that are exclusive to their launcher, which from a console player's perspective, it's not exclusive in that sort of same way. When you say that some game is like a PlayStation 4 exclusive, or it's an Xbox exclusive, that means you have to shell out more money for another console if you want to play The Last of Us if you have an Xbox or something like that. This is just about making another account and then paying the same price essentially and getting the game you want. So it's not the same. Overall, I don't get the negativity here. It seems like blown way out of proportion.
All right, speaking of controversies in the world of gaming, let's move on to our loot box related news. The US FTC recently held a workshop regarding paid loot boxes involving the three biggest players in the console market, Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo. According to a statement by the Entertainment Software Association, the big three have agreed to institute a new policy requiring that new games with paid loot boxes disclose the exact rarity or probabilities of obtaining randomized virtual items. This will also apply to games that receive updates that include paid loot boxes.
Such a measure has been implemented outside the US. China introduced similar measures in 2017, requiring video game developers and publishers to declare the draw probability of all virtual items and services, to restrict daily loot box purchases, and give more favorable odds to gamers when it comes to receiving rare items. Game developers have since made some of these statistics public in response to the new law, with Blizzard Entertainment replacing loot boxes for Chinese players of Overwatch with the ability to directly buy in-game currency.
In other related news, Psyonix, the developers behind the hit sports game Rocket League, have announced plans to permanently scrap the game's random loot box features. While the game will continue to have a season pass and DLC, a new system to replace the random loot boxes will eventually be rolled out. This new system will allow players to see exactly what items they're buying in advance. Psyonix, which is also run by Epic Games, appeared to be following Fortnite's lead in scrapping random loot boxes. So, thoughts?
Not totally sure what kind of impact it's going to have. I think it's a good first step towards, just getting rid of these boxes overall, but not sure what sort of effect this is going to have.
Obviously, there are pros and cons to loot boxes, and I guess obviously most of the pros would be on the company side, right?
Right. So most of the time from loot boxes, it's the company, sort of profiting, not the person playing the game.
There's also the possibility that if companies start to lose ways to implement microtransactions, the games in result may become more expensive so they can afford the loss or gain the profit they need.
Yeah, you raise a good point. So the question here, I suppose, really is, do you want to pay for like a $60 game with microtransactions attached, or do you want to pay for like an $80 game and have none of that?
Well, then that's just...
It's an obvious answer for me.
Yeah.
I would pay the extra $20.
Would you?
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, I think it depends on, how the microtransactions, how you implement them. That's the big difference, I think. Because if they're not intrusive and you don't need them, then of course go for the $60.
See, loot boxes, as I think we all agree, are great and fine if it's just cosmetics or skins like Overwatch, for example. However, when it's pay to win, which EA always gets a lot of heat for, then obviously that's a completely different story because you're paying to get better at a game rather than experience it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you do raise a good point about Overwatch because in terms of, the measures they sort of implemented in China, it seems that Blizzard has sort of looked at these new measures and sort of said, well, this is too much work. We're going to replace the loot boxes for people playing in China, and we're just going to give you the ability to buy the game's in-game currency, directly. So rather than going through the loot box, which is the current system everywhere else. And, as someone who plays Overwatch, I want that system because I'm sort of thinking, it would be so much easier. I'm still going to give you money. You're still going to get my money and I'm still going to get the stuff that I want. So, it's a win-win for both of us. I think, this policy could have positive effects like what we see Blizzard do in China. Obviously, you mentioned EA. I think EA is going to be very hard hit by this.
EA don't even consider their loot boxes loot boxes. They're now, as they say, surprise mechanics. I feel like this is a way for them to try and get around the policy, but I doubt it's working.
Yeah, obviously, we still have to ask the question, is what China doing sort of proportionate? Is this, hurting game developers? The way I say what they do is, declare the probability of, getting these items, restrict, how many loot boxes people can buy, and, give more favorable odds to gamers. Sounds okay to me.
Sounds okay to every consumer.
Yeah. It's just the issue here is it's not okay with companies, apparently.
It's not okay because nowadays games, to develop a game gets more and more expensive every year. So to cover those costs, sometimes they have to include microtransactions so they can make that money back.
Yeah, I know. Obviously, Christian made a very good point, early on, when I suggested, which would you buy between $60 and $80? And I think in certain cases, it would actually be easier if, they just were honest with people and just, raise the cost. I mean, okay, it's something naturally you expect, in terms of, sort of economically speaking, that, prices will go up over time. It's okay to see that change reflected in, video games, if you like, rather than just, trying to make money in different ways.
Yeah, we're more comfortable with a fixed cost rather than, the microtransaction variable cost.
Obviously, we say that as people with disposable income to pay for our games. So just saying that, just to be clear about that. I wish we could move on to happier news, but things don't seem to be going that way this week in the world of gaming. Video game company Take-Two has drawn fire this week after the company was revealed to have sent private investigators to the home of Matt Summers, a YouTube personality known for posting videos of Borderlands, a franchise owned by Take-Two subsidiary 2K Games. After 2 weeks without an upload, Summers recently returned to YouTube with a video explaining his absence, stating that Take-Two had struck his channel with several copyright strikes and sent private investigators to his home to investigate his coverage of the franchise, which included leaks related to the upcoming Borderlands 3.
According to a statement by 2K, the action was taken as a result of a 10-month-long investigation, citing Summers' history of profiting from breaking our policies, leaking confidential information about our product, and infringing our copyrights. 2K also claimed that many of his actions were in fact illegal, and that they were negatively impacting the experiences of other content creators and their fans in anticipation for the game.
Some details in Sommer's videos actually did end up squaring with official information about the game, with Sommers seemingly uncovering details of the game's 4 main characters and the development of a DLC for Borderlands 2 that was intended to bridge the gap between the two games. According to Sommers, private investigators working on behalf of Take-Two showed up at his house and questioned him on the 25th of July. While Sommers admitted that his excitement got the better of his judgment, he claimed that he obtained the information by data mining a Twitch extension that contained unreleased footage of the game.
Summers also claimed that 20 minutes after the PIs visited his home, his Discord server and account were both terminated for being involved in selling, promoting, or distributing cheats, hacks, or cracked accounts, something which he denies. 2K has called Summers' video incomplete and has refused to comment further about the details of their investigation. The hashtag boycott Borderlands 3 has since been circulating on Twitter. So thoughts?
So it's really about figuring out who's in the right and who's in the wrong, right?
Yeah. So to me, I know I was reading the story and I was sort of, couldn't quite wrap it around my head, if you like, about, what exactly is going on here. It seems like, he's saying something, 2K is saying something else. And it's like, who is, telling the truth here?
I think he claimed he wasn't selling the leaks.
Do we know that for sure, though?
2K claims to have a screenshot of the Discord server after they paid the $5 fee to get into the private Discord server. Saw that there's just a leak dump in the entire chat.
Yeah, obviously, Krishna has like a very valid question. What do we know is sort of true here? What do we know is, as fact? What do we know as fact? As far as I know, is that 2K, or Take-Two, they did send these private investigators to his house. He said that in his video, and then 2K said, yes, we did do that. I think, regardless of whatever he did, that's a bit much in terms of, reacting to this guy, just leaking your stuff.
It wasn't just that, though. From what I read, is that obviously he's been under investigations for releasing Borderlands leaks, which have always turned out to be accurate. So obviously that would lead some suspicion over him. That's fine. From what Take-Two said, he crossed the line when he started selling these leaks by making that private Discord server.
That would be crossing the line.
So obviously they had to take further action, and I believe that's what may have prompted them to go up to his door and ask him about it.
As far as I know, the police didn't actually get involved, even though they said this is illegal. Like what he did was illegal, which is kind of strange to me. If it's illegal, then you should get involved, with the police, or get a lawsuit going, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean he was also just a fan of Borderlands, so Take-Two said that they didn't want to pursue him for anything, just for being a fan, but because of the selling, they had to do something. That's
a good attitude. I mean, obviously, I guess the question is, how much how much does leaked information sort of matter in, the overall sort of picture? If the company sort of says, it doesn't say one way or the other whether this is real or this is fake, I don't think it's, leaking stuff is that much of a big deal, really. I mean, it's certainly not, enough to warrant, PIs being sent. But as you said, he's been selling the stuff, allegedly. So that's crossing the line.
I'm inclined to believe him, Sommers, because, as he says, he's a big fan. Fan wouldn't leak these things or profit off of leaks like this.
There can be some obsessive fans who would want to get everything out.
I think what Krishna's saying, Krishna does have a very good point there, actually. I think, it's not the case that he was I don't think it's the case that he was sort of maliciously doing this. I think, he just, like you said, he was just very enthusiastic about this game. And I know I'm quite enthusiastic about this game as well. And he sort of just let that run away with him, if you like. So it just, got out of his control. I think that's all this is.
Okay, moving on to our weekly movie news. Renowned actor Andy Serkis has confirmed that he has signed on to direct the sequel to Venom, reportedly beating out other directors including Travis Knight, director of Bumblebee, and Rupert Wyatt, director of Rise of the Planet of the Apes, for the position. After speculation fueled by a now deleted Instagram post on Tom Hardy's Instagram account, Serkis confirmed that he was set to take the helm. Serkis stated that he was still in the beginning stages, but had some very clear ideas about the journey and what he'd like to see visually.
Andy Serkis has previously directed Mowgli, The Legend of the Jungle, and Breathe, a romantic comedy starring Andrew Garfield and Claire Foy. According to Serkis, Tom Hardy, who plays Eddie Brock, is very involved in the writing of the sequel story. So are you guys excited about Andy Serkis?
I'm excited. I think all of us are excited because we love Andy Serkis for the movies he's done previously as an actor. But I'm a little skeptical of his track record when it comes to directing.
Like Krishna says, he's a great actor. I don't think anybody would sort of deny that. His sort of work in motion capture has been, quite revolutionary in terms of that sort of industry. On the other hand, not very sure about his track record as a director. Because, his previous stuff, I haven't seen it, but I've not heard, that it's been amazing or particularly, impressive or anything like that.
Yeah, we're basing our opinions on reviews we've seen online.
Like you guys, I haven't seen the previous movies Andy Serkis has directed, but we know that he does a good job directing actors' motion capture roles.
I feel like he knows what actors need to hear.
Obviously, people do motion capture in films and in video games. It's actually quite common in video games as well. So what that is it's very different to sort of acting on a set because, there is no set essentially, as far as I understand it. You're dressed up in like a very weird suit, you have dots on your face, and that's kind of, that can be quite jarring, can be quite difficult for an actor to sort of do that. He made it an art form, if you like.
We haven't seen Andy Serkis direct a movie quite like Venom. It's a superhero anti-hero movie about a Marvel property.
What did you guys think of Venom? Let me ask you that.
Venom was good. It wasn't a great movie.
It was enjoyable. I liked it.
There's good moments
And
in
the
it.
important thing is, we like Venom as a character.
Yeah, speaking of what I was trying to say is that Andy Serkis, since he has such an experience with motion capture acting, I feel like he could bring a lot more interesting motion behind Carnage, for example, which is the teased villain.
Yeah, I think visually he has a lot to offer.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I think, he could bring something, I don't know in terms of, direction, but in terms, bringing something new to the visuals and that sort of element of the movie, he could bring something really interesting to that. I don't know what I think about Tom Hardy writing the story.
He's very passionate, that's very clear. And I know Tom Hardy loves playing the Venom role. He likes doing voices, which he does for this.
And I heard a lot of his material was cut out in the first
Yeah,
Venom movie.
that is true. Yes,
All his favorite moments were cut out. That's so sad.
it makes you wonder what we haven't seen, I guess.
Andy Serkis seems like the kind of guy who would listen to actors' input a lot more than, the producing team of the first movie. So yeah, we might get to see a lot more of Tom Hardy and his little quirks with the character.
I mean, I definitely think there's room to improve on the first movie, and if he can do that, sure. Anyways, moving on to something more concrete. Disney have revealed further details related to their upcoming streaming service, Disney+. The streaming service, which has a planned launch on November 12th this year, will be made available as a package deal together with ESPN Plus and Hulu for $12.99 a month. Consumers can also opt to pay $6.99 for Disney Plus alone.
Disney CEO Bob Iger also spoke about how future projects offered by Disney Plus would be rebooting, or rather reimagining, Home Alone, Night at the Museum, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and Cheaper by the Dozen. Classic films, all of which were previously owned by 20th Century Fox. These are of course now Disney franchises following Disney's acquisition of Fox assets for $71 billion. It is unclear what these reboots will be, and the fate of the rumored Stoned Alone, an R-rated reboot of Home Alone starring Ryan Reynolds, is unclear.
Earlier this week, Disney was reported to have scrubbed most of the projects currently in the Fox pipeline, citing the disappointing critical and commercial reaction to X-Men Dark Phoenix. So what do we think?
I mean, obviously, you put Disney Plus, you put ESPN Plus and Hulu for $13 a month. That's not bad.
Is it Hulu with ads though?
Yes, it is Hulu with ads. That doesn't sound too bad. Sort of in line with what you would pay for Netflix, like the highest model of Netflix, I think.
Yeah, but I feel like the people who are very excited to get Disney Plus have no interest in ESPN Plus.
I mean, who knows? Like, a lot of Disney fans might be sports fans.
I'm going to be honest with you guys. I did not even know until we did the research for this that ESPN Plus existed.
Me neither.
It's like, this is a thing apparently. And also Disney is running it. Okay, so what do you guys think of these sort of reboots?
I'm not too excited about reboots, to be honest.
No, everything's a reboot nowadays.
Yeah. I think I speak for a lot of people when I say that we're tired of reboots. We want something original.
I do love some of Disney's stuff. I mean, I like Marvel, what they're doing with Marvel. I love Star Wars. I love what they're doing with Star Wars. I've loved what they've done with Star Wars. But at the same time, I do think, sometimes this sort of thing does have a very negative effect on sort of the movie industry as a whole. Because, what you're essentially forcing is you're getting movies that are sequels, prequels, reboots, remakes. And what you're really lacking is original, stuff with vision, made by people who are not bored executives somewhere. Made by people who actually want to make movies because, it's a passion for them rather than, I'm going to make money from this.
And also, yeah, what I feel like Disney's strategy for the next decade is just rebooting their classics.
Obviously, they will have more original films coming out. I think you're right in saying a lot of what they're going to be doing is sort of rebooting, which is not great. Try something original for a change, I think.
I feel like they shouldn't force the reboots. Like Lion King was a clear cash grab. Yet with Aladdin, they did something a bit original, which was a good refresher. And Mulan looks very different, which I think is a proper live action reboot.
Obviously, I think there's a concern that Disney is like a huge company nowadays. I think they are the biggest in the entertainment industry. That's not great in terms of, innovating and stuff. Also, I think I have a concern, like obviously what Disney tries to do is maintain their public images of, sort of a family-friendly company in the extreme. So when it comes to, doing R-rated movies like, this Stoned Alone with Ryan Reynolds, or, even R-rated movies like Deadpool, or Logan, stuff like that, Disney will not be making that kind of movie. And I think, they need to find a solution because we need those kinds of movies, whether it's establishing like a separate sort of brand where they can do this or, whatever they come up with. They just need to sort of accept that aspect.
I wonder if this is working for them in a different way. Maybe their real plan is to sell more merchandise.
I mean, I do like the idea that they're funding, your sort of favorite sort of franchises, Star Wars, Marvel, but at the same time, not very original stuff.
They said the reimagining or reboot is going to be movies and TV, right? So some of them are movies, some of them is TV.
They haven't said which is going to be what. They haven't, they said it could be movies or TV.
Yeah, I think I can see Night at the Museum be a TV, even Diary of a Wimpy Kid. But I don't want to see a Night at the Museum TV show.
I don't want to see it at all. I don't see the need for these. Why?
I would be okay seeing a Night at the Museum TV series. It sounds like a good concept for a TV show.
I don't know. It just feels like they're taking a well-known popular property and just kind of rebranding it to be a TV show.
Obviously, we do need to discuss the fact that Disney supposedly they have scrubbed like most of the projects currently in sort of Fox's pipeline of movies. So a lot of stuff that was in pre-production, sort of being pitched, them sort of being written, still in those stages, that's been completely cleared out. Wiping out all these projects, that's a big move.
Yeah, I mean, considering they've been making such a loss in a lot of their recent properties, I think Disney's thought like, okay, we have to like change a lot of things.
What kind of effect is this having on the the movie industry as a whole?
Kind of just further proves how much of a monopoly Disney's becoming in entertainment.
Okay, let's move on to our weekly review roundup. This week, Fast and Furious Hobbs and Shaw and Wolfenstein Youngblood.
Fast and Furious.
Yeah, I went to watch that movie. I had a good time, like I would expect it, because it is that type of movie. But I had a better time than I thought I would. I went in with like no expectations, because we all know what Fast and Furious is at this point.
Yeah, that's fair.
But it was really surprising. I quite enjoyed myself, since we don't have like Vin Diesel constantly shouting about family in your face.
It's not really Fast and Furious without that there, dude.
That's true. It didn't like quite feel like a Fast and Furious movie, but it definitely had elements of it. But it's fine because this movie owns a lot of what it is already. So a lot of it is just really enjoyable and nothing like ever feels cringy or anything.
So it's a fun movie.
Yeah, it's a really fun movie. There's no deep story or anything, so don't expect any of that. But it's really.
I mean,
really
I don't think anybody is though, to be honest.
I don't know. There are people who still expect like the newer Fast and Furious like to go deeper.
I literally just see the name Dwayne Johnson. I'm like, yeah, no, it's not going to be a serious movie. I love the guy and everything he's in. I mean, his movies, like the recent ones, even the disaster ones, they're unintentionally funny.
And we also have Idris Elba being super villain.
Black Superman.
He's really cyborg though, honestly, guys.
What I like about that is, I think for what you say, he really sort of embraces the role. On paper, it sounds like super, super silly. But, if you embrace it, you could make a really good movie. So yeah, let's talk Wolfenstein. Obviously, Tarun and I did play this together because it is meant to be a co-op game. Interestingly, we should just note that we actually used the deluxe edition. And I got the buddy pass. So I think we can kind of recommend that was a pretty good experience if you're looking to get it for, less money. What can we say about it?
There was that moment where I obliterated and then Tim vaporized some enemy.
At the same time. You guys can catch that on our Instagram if you haven't seen it already.
Oh yeah, check that out, guys.
It's a really fun game. Like
it's a silly game. It's over the top. Like, okay, well, not all of it is so great. The story is super thin. Basically, he wants to get, BJ Blazkowicz's daughter to Paris and just shoot stuff. It basically is what happens. I do like Jess and Soph. I think they're, quite interesting characters. And, the franchise has sort of that history of interesting characters. So, they're voiced very well. You get the feeling that they're sisters, which is nice because you want that sense that it's real. Looking forward to having them back if they are going to make those characters sort of have a return in future games. It's an okay co-op shooter. Story's not so great. Villain, I don't even know who the villain was. Barely any idea.
Also, a lot of the side characters, like you said, Wolfenstein is known for, also having some intriguing characters. But the supporting characters in this don't do much of anything.
Yeah, They don't have much of an effect. They don't have personality, which is strange.
Yeah, and like Tim said, the story is pretty thin, but it's a little bit forgivable because it is a spin-off.
Yeah, I suppose. Shooting stuff is still fun. I think it still took them way too long to introduce the laser gun. that to me was like, once you get the laser gun, it's sort of like, wow, this game, okay, this is where I start having fun. Just some bits I did not like about it. The armor, I don't know if you noticed the armor bar. Apparently what you have to do is sort of pick the right weapon for the type of armor. And you have to use the armor bar to see which weapon that is. Incredibly annoying. Nobody wants to do that. Just use the laser gun because it's like one hit kill most of the time.
Yeah, I never paid attention to the armor because there's so much going on already with the action.
It's chaos, basically. And okay, the audio glitch, that was bad as well. We do have to
Tim
mention
and I,
that.
again, experienced something similar where we both had an audio glitch at different moments in the game. And it went on for quite a while. That kind of ruined some of the experience.
So, overall, if you guys have a lot of spare money, then, maybe you want to try this out because, co-op is not that common these days. Other than that, I would say go play other games in the franchise. This is not the best it's been.
Maybe get it on a sale.
Anyways, that's all for this week. We're planning a new series where we'll go in depth on relevant topics. We obviously enjoy joking around on here quite a bit. This will be relatively different, tonally speaking. We're planning to have an episode out quite soon where we talk about the connection, or rather the lack thereof, between gun violence and video games. Unfortunately, this was made relevant once again, given the tragic events in El Paso and Dayton, Ohio earlier this week.
Our thoughts are with the victims.
Yeah.
And as always, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram in the links below so you get notified when we post new content. Make sure to check out our website, pressoverthecouch.com, for the full versions of the reviews we write. Until next week, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.